Good evening. I'd like to call the June 23rd, 2020 regular City Council meeting to order. I'd like to point out that this meeting is being hosted through live stream on the city's website and by teleconference for public comment. City staff is at an off-site location participating through video conference. If you're joining through teleconference, please remember to mute your phone to prevent noise interference until your opportunity to provide public comment. Due to the structure of this meeting, I'd like to remind council to have their microphones turned on and positioned so the audience can hear. Deputy City Clerk, we're going to have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Percival?
Here.
Councilmember Wright?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Here.
Mayor Brown?
Here.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, our invocation. We're happy to have a representative from the Interfaith Council join us again. Mary Rysdale is here, and when she's concluded her invocation, Councilmember Meyer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Thank you all. This is a prayer for unity. O my God, verily, I invoke thee and supplicate before thy threshold, asking thee that all thy mercies may descend upon these souls. Specialize them for thy favor and thy truth. O Lord, unite and bind together the hearts, join in accord all the souls, and exhilarate the spirits through the signs of sanctity and oneness. O Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Strengthen the loins of thy servants in the service of thy kingdom. O Lord, thou possessor of infinite mercy, O Lord of forgiveness and pardon, forgive our sins, pardon our shortcomings, and cause us to turn to the kingdom of thy clemency, invoking the kingdom of might and power, humble at the shrine and submissive before the glory of thine evidences. O Lord God, make us as waves of the sea, as flowers of the garden, united, agreed through the bounties of thy love. O Lord, dilate the breasts through the signs of thy oneness, and make all mankind as stars shining from the same height of glory, as perfect fruits growing upon thy tree of life. Verily, thou art the Almighty, the self-subsistent, the giver, the forgiving, the pardoner, the omniscient, the one creator. Amen.
Please join me in our flag salute. Ready, begin.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And moving on to item 10, the City Attorney will please give us a report from the closed session.
Mayor, I'd be happy to do that. There were 2 items on the council's closed session this evening. One was a meeting with your labor negotiator, Chris Lopez, your city manager. You received a briefing and an update on ongoing negotiations from the city manager. That was all that was reportable from that item, and you also had a briefing from the city attorney and special counsel with regard to one item of the existing litigation. There's no other reportable item from that. That concludes my report. Those are all the items that we discussed today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move to communications from the public. To accommodate public comment, we've made some temporary changes to this part of our agenda that were necessitated to comply with COVID-19 directives. There's a temporary 2-minute per person time limit for all general public comments on non-public hearing items. All who wish to speak, including council members and staff, need to be recognized by the mayor before speaking. Members of the public shall comply with the adopted rules of decorum, resolution number 4545, a copy of which can be requested through the city clerk's office. You may also fill out a form and submit your comments online at www.hemetca.gov/councilchamberlive, and your comments will be read aloud. Submittal must be done, however, before 2 p.m. the day of the meeting. For those that wish to join by teleconferencing, you can do so by calling 888-585-9008. When prompted, dial 768-176 038. You'll be asked for your name prior to speaking. As a reminder, if you're joining by teleconference, please mute your telephone to prevent noise interference until your opportunity to provide comment. Please state your name and the item that you're commenting on before speaking. Deputy City Clerk, were there any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud for consent or discussion items?
Yes, Mayor, there was one electronic comment submitted by Chavea Cleveland. States, my name is Chavea, I am a resident of Hemet, and I'm demanding a restructuring of the budget so as to distribute funds amongst other services for our communities and to drastically reduce the overfunding of HPD. While half of the city's budget is funneled into the Hemet Police Department, the rest of the town suffers from lack thereof. We are not asking to get rid of the department, but to evenly disperse funds so this town can flourish along with its citizens. If this doesn't happen, I truly believe this town will continue down the path of misery. It's your job to help create a better community, and so far you have failed us. Why does the police station need so much money? Yes, we need the police, but they do not need the majority of these funds. This town is miserable, and we are all suffering. If you don't even consider this, you will be doing a disservice to me, my siblings, parents, grandparents, and future children. It's your job to create a better environment for us. Please listen to the pleas of your citizens. Defunding the police and restructuring the budget is an absolute necessity. Thank you for your time. End of comments.
Thank you. And that was the only e-comment?
Correct.
Are there any members of the public participating through teleconference that would like to comment on any consent or discussion items?
There are no members of the public on the line.
Okay. Are there any requests to speak from members of the public that are present?
Yes, there is one request from Carrie Davis Meadow.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Carrie Davis Medill. I live at 5654 Nectar Avenue in Hemet. I'm a longtime Hemet resident, and after reading the agenda tonight, and I see that staff is recommending approval of the budget, I have concerns with what's being proposed. They're proposing cutting police and other vital positions, code enforcement. Why? And focusing on community development, you can't develop this community if we don't take care of the problem. I've been here for a long time, and I've watched this budget struggle for years, and we're at the same place we are every year. Things are being passed, and you guys are being tasked to approve a budget based on what staff's telling you. And these are not truths. I mean, I live here, you live here, you're elected. You drive down the street and you see our police needs the funding. We also need services. We need homeless outreach. We need people with mental health workers going out with PD. We need fire. I live on the east end of town. We don't have a manned fire station, but we're proposing to promote people and increase funding for other departments. It makes no sense to me. I encourage you to send staff back to task. Have them think outside the box. Have them get creative. Are they not invested in our community? I know as elected officials, you guys all live here and drive up and down our streets. Does our city manager live here? Is he invested? I know we've had more city managers than any other jurisdiction in this county since 2000. There's a reason. They're not invested. I'm invested in this community. You're invested. Make them think. Make them work. Make them think outside the box. I really encourage you to not approve the budget as it stands and make them go back to work. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The next is Maggie Osuna.
Subject will be the city budget. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Maggie Osuna, and I'm here as a resident in the city of Hemet. I am coming to you today as both taxpayer and concerned citizen. I feel that it should be the city's top priority to keep all public services funded, since the revenue for those services come from the resident taxpayer such as myself. I find it highly concerning that our public employees have not received a pay raise in over 13 years. These are the same employees that they will leave, work, and retire in the city of Hemet. And if we don't fund these public services, they will leave the city of Hemet, and our economy will suffer as a result. We need to do more, just talk about these workers being essential. We need to pay them accordingly. Therefore, I expect you all to do the right things for our city and for these workers. One more thing, ask yourself, how many times are you been having raise in those 13 years? Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you for your comments.
Next is Brett Long, followed by Tim Burke.
Good evening, council members. My name is Brett Long. Hemet is my hometown. As a matter of fact, I am the fourth generation of my family that lives in this valley. My great-grandfather moved to the valley in 1928. Both my parents and all my aunts and uncles grew up here. Now here I am raising my own children in the valley I've called home for all 42 years of my life. I started working for the city of Hemet about 8 years ago. I have yet to see a cost of living raise. There are many more of my coworkers who haven't seen one in 13 years, at least. And now you're wanting to give upper management significant raises? They've already seen raises in recent years, and you just keep shutting the members of SEIU down every time we ask. I just don't get how you can morally continue to give upper management and at-will employees raises and keep cutting the bottom of the pyramid off. Our cost of living continues to increase just as much as everyone else's. You know what happens if you keep cutting the foundation? Eventually the building collapses. This community relies on us to keep the city functioning as much as they rely on police and fire to keep them safe. Why not keep us equal? I'm the senior building inspector, and I, like everyone else, we take our job very seriously. I'm proud of what I do. It is my honor and my obligation to see that buildings are constructed properly and are safe for our citizens to enter and occupy. We all work hand in hand to make this city run. If I can ensure a building is safe and built to code, it reduces the risk of fire, so Chief Brown doesn't have to send his fire crew out for an electrical fire or something. That opens them up for public help elsewhere. Street lights, our street signals, everything. Facility maintenance. We all work together. We're all one oiled machine. We're all one team. Okay? And it takes a well-balanced team to win a championship. I hope you make the right decision when adjusting the budget for the team that we all play on. That team's the city of Hemet. I hope you guys make the right decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brett. Ladies and gentlemen, please refrain from that. That's part of the 4545 resolution that we all subscribe to. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Tim Burke. I'm an employee that's been here for about going on 19 years now. I'm also the City of Hemet's chapter president for the miscellaneous employees. First thing I wanted to say was Measure U is not a general, it's not a public safety tax. It's a general services tax. That's the way it was written. The decision was made by council to make it something else. Measure E was a public safety tax that failed in June of 2016 by the voters. What level of reserves is tantamount to hoarding taxpayer money, and what level is prudent? That doesn't seem to be clear here at the City of Hemet. Reserves are valuable to have, yes. They're there to avoid having to cut services that we provide during economic downturns. With Measure U, I'm being taxed for a need as a resident. I understand that. Prioritize public safety, I'm okay with that. But not at the peril of community need and wanting of having good quality of life in this community. This is what we do. We provide these services. Since contracting out refuse and street sweeping doesn't look too good out there, does it? A lot of California cities run on average between 16 and 18% of reserves. Hemet has said it's 20. A lot of cities revisit the amount annually to see if it's still the correct amount. Does Hemet? This year, it appears that Hemet will have an approximately 21.5% reserves at the end of this budget cycle. Yet the city is still looking to reduce staff positions that are filled, that are occupied. Positions at City Hall, where I've heard council members say things take a long time to get processed. With less staff, that's what happens. I represent a group of people that shrunk in size from 154 people to about 77 over the years. We've absorbed various duties, taken on roles that are blended across different divisions, and have been for years. This is nothing new for us. During emergencies like windstorms, when the trees are down, water main breaks, after earthquakes, it's all hands on deck for us. And all of this extra duties and blended work duties, we're still being able to pull together for the community with less people. Streamlining, we call it. These people that I represent have done all of this without a single raise in 13 years. We've taken salary cuts, paid more into our retirement, absorbed increases in health care. All of this why the upper management gets hefty raises. Some stay, some leave, plus additional retirement incentives like 401ks. That's on top of their PERS. Not having to pick up their pension portion like we did years ago. Am I jealous? Sure.
And
folks
time
working
is
here,
expired if you wrap it
13
up,
years
please.
without a raise while cutting positions that provide services to the community, you need to reevaluate it. And like I said, I should have applied for the 10 minutes, but I thought I could get this out. And as somebody who represents a majority of people here that have been called non-essential for years, non-essential. We've been here through it all. COVID, everything. 13 years. You see what's happening? I guarantee you upper management has nobody at the food banks. Our members are there.
Thank you for your comments.
There are no more comments for item 11A.
Okay, we're moving on to item 11B. This is public comment for items not listed on the agenda, but within jurisdictional matter. Deputy City Clerk, are there any electronic comments submitted to be read aloud for non-agendized items?
Yes, there were 6 received. First one is from Pamela Broyhill. Comment reads, I would like someone to read my comments at this meeting. Year after year, those of us who live in the area of Sierra Dawn South and South State Street have endured the sounds of illegal fireworks at all hours of the night. Many of our pets and our dogs have become terrorized by these unnerving actions. We all try to keep our pets calm by spending copious amounts of money on pills, shirts, essential oils, etc., to try and help our best friends cope with every single night from the end of May until even after July 4th. We all know that fireworks are illegal in Hemet, and the reason for it. A fire could be started at any time. Whenever we try to report this problem to police, we are told, you have to know the exact location, address of the people doing this. If we try to explain the area, we're told, sorry, there's nothing we can do. Some of us are actually driving around our neighborhood hoping to come across these lawbreakers, but not surprisingly, we are unable to locate the exact location they're coming from because the behavior mysteriously stops. Why do we have laws if the police department refuses to enforce them? Makes no sense. Please help us. We don't know what else to do. Next comment is from Adam Kapicki. Every evening I hear many loud fireworks, M80s and bottle rockets between 6 p.m. to after midnight. I live in a walled mobile park, so I can't see the streets, but they sound close by on Oakland Avenue between Palm and Gilbert. Tonight I can smell the smoke from them. I know HPD is aware of the citizen complaints, but what are they doing about it? Many residents are fed up with this illegal annoyance. How about police on bikes, drones, or volunteer force to catch the scoffles? Whatever HPD is doing, frankly, is not working. Thanks for bringing this up in your next public agenda. Next comment is from Robin Popiela. The illegal fireworks explosions are so dangerous. This has been going on for months and no support or police/fire enforcement for us. It's been so difficult for people and pets. It's awful. Next comment is from Elsa Carbone. Every night, fireworks are going off. Dogs are getting scared, not to mention people being awakened from their sleep with sounds of a war zone. This has been going on for months and has nothing to do with Independence Day. Also, wouldn't it be nice to have your shopping trip not interrupted by panhandlers? The same man has been hitting me up for money for years in parking lots of Home Depot and Lowe's. I asked him why he doesn't get a job, and he said he did not want to work. Must be nice. Next comment is from Errol Kendrick. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. On February 25th, 2020, the City Council approved a request to waive the undergrounding requirement for utilities associated with the development of TR 25168 and TR 31620. I would to bring some issues to your attention. Number one, the attached letter prepared by D.R. Horton did not go through the proper process to modify the conditions of approval for TR 31620, as it requires a notice public hearing before the original hearing body. This is a common practice for the city per the direction of the city attorney and was conducted for TR 35393 on August 1, 2017 that allowed residents and tenants within a 500 radius to comment and participate in the public hearing process to modify the conditions of approval. I encourage you to read the staff report and resolution for track 35393 where the Community Development Director, by direction of the city attorney, clearly states that the public hearing was required and the resolution details of the public noticing for residents and tenants within 500 feet of the project. Conditions can only be modified by the original hearing body. 2. The letter in question does not modify the adopted conditions of approval. 3. It is unreasonable and unequitable for staff to burden another property owner with future improvements without being properly notified. The deferral of the scenic highway improvements is in direct conflict with the Scenic Highway Design Manual, page 113, which requires installation prior to the first occupancy permit and the underlying conditions of approval for track 31620. The Scenic Highway Design Manual has thresholds for deferrals if the project fails to meet, page 114. 6. The newly revised conditions of approval were not attached to the staff report and cannot be changed without a noticed public hearing. 7. The wrong track map number is referenced throughout the entire staff report. Track 25168 is the correct number. I would like to request that the City Council require D.R. Horton to go through the appropriate process that has been enforced for developers throughout the city. Next comment is from Roger Ashford. To the Honorable Mayor and members of the Hemet City Council, I am writing to express several major concerns with the development of D.R. Horton's Citrus Point project, which is adjacent to the Orchard community where I currently own a home. I am a retired SCE planner, 29 years, and also the Vice President of the Engineering Division at Herman Weisler, Inc., 17 years. I have done electric distribution work for SCE, SDG&E, and the City of Riverside, the City of Banning, and Arizona Public Service. I am quite familiar with typical requirements for most local cities and Caltrans. I am very disturbed with what I am finding the more I investigate this project. I have reviewed the letter from Mr. Dan Boyd of D.R. Horton to Mr. Nelson Miller of the City of Hemet dated January 28, 2020, and the City Council staff report regarding the waiver of undergrounding dated February 25, 2020. I will address my concerns from both documents in no particular order of relevance. Number 1, State Highway 74, Florida Avenue, is a designated scenic highway not only by the City of Hemet but also the State of California. As such, there are strict guidelines that must be followed when this project is developed. I am generally concerned that the required block wall, meandering, sidewalk, pedestrian lighting, city monuments, irrigation, and landscaping requirement required by the Scenic Highway Manual and agreed to by the City of Hemet will never be installed unless the developer is required to install and have them approved prior to the occupancy of the first home completed in Phase 1 of the project. See Attachments 1 and 1A for examples of scenic highway setback landscaping that was done on Sanderson Avenue. The undergrounding of the communication lines on Highway 74 should be completed at the same time as the other improvements as described in Item 1 above. 3. Although most of the Citrus Point project is a different track number than the Orchard neighborhood where I live, it is a direct extension of our community and must reflect the architecture of the existing homes. D.R. Horton is proposing to construct either a Mediterranean or Tuscan-style home, which is totally incompatible with our existing American craftsman style of home. See Attachment 2 of existing home architecture. Number 4. That is the end of electronic comments.
Thank you very much. Do you have any members participating through teleconference that would like to comment on non-agendized items?
Yes, Mayor, there are several. First comment is from Geraldine Oliva, followed by Sue Campbell.
Who's the first speaker?
Geraldine Oliva, followed by Sue Campbell.
We have no teleconference comments.
There are no members of the line on the teleconference line.
Okay. Now for members that are here in the live audience.
My name is Geraldine Oliva, and I live on 234 Orchard Avenue. And I want to thank you, Mayor and council members, for this opportunity to speak. May I take this off for a second?
Okay.
My concern is traffic control, and I'm asking this question: will there be access to the new development from Florida? I heard there won't be. And how will they enter and exit the new homes? My sister and my niece both have John Petty homes on Lincoln, and said the traffic has more than doubled in the last few years. And will there be traffic signals on Lake and Florida, and who will provide this? It's already difficult to enter and exit from Lake and Florida. And I just want to thank you for taking these concerns into consideration.
Thank you very much for your comments. And by the way, thanks for bringing up that question, because any of you that are speaking, feel free to remove your mask at the microphone.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Sue Campbell, and I've lived at 233 Orchard Avenue for 10 years. And with the addition of 80 new homes, I'm concerned about the significant increase in traffic around the new development, especially in regard to the safety of children walking to and from school. I understand that there will be sidewalk and curbs built on the east side of Lake Street from Orange Grove Street to Florida Street. However, the current width of Lake Street will not meet the new curbs, leaving a strip of weeds along the curbs. In addition, there is a bus stop at the intersection of Florida and Lake Street. This bus stop is used by many middle and high school students. Currently, there is no safe access to the bus stop. The danger for pedestrians at this intersection needs to be addressed. In order to ensure safety of all pedestrians, especially children and the elderly, the Lake Street pavement width needs to be extended to meet the new curbs and gutters. I'm also concerned about the floodwater drainage in the tract. The new development is significantly higher than the existing tract of homes. In case of a major rain event, the elevation difference appears to be significant enough to cause serious flooding near the intersection of Orchard Avenue and Nectar Street. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for your consideration of my concerns.
Thank you very much. Sue?
Ma'am? Yes?
Where was the bus stop?
The bus stop is at Lake Street and Florida Street.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Pat Savage, followed by Carrie Davis Medill.
Thank you, distinguished council, Mayor Pro Tem. It's a pleasure to speak before you again. Missed you all. I am also speaking about the intersection that Sue Campbell just talked about. We have 80 new homes going in at D.R. Horton at that Citrus Point development. There's only two entrances of this. Both of them go through our existing neighborhood. Primarily, the traffic will be entering and exiting off of Orange Grove Avenue and Lake Street. Lake Street between Florida and Lincoln is posted 30 miles an hour each way. However, I walk that area every single morning. And believe me, people race to get 55 or over between those two stop signs. It is very dangerous. A stop sign needs to be considered at Lake and Orange Grove. I am also concerned is that D.R. Horton is going to build a wall around their property. And at Orange Grove and Lake Street, this will be a wall on each side of the road. I don't know the dimensions. A engineering condition on this development has either yet to be written or I haven't seen it yet. A planning condition says that there shall be a sidewalk from the curb to the wall. And my concern is the visibility going both directions if something's not done about the traffic control there. And since I've been limited to 2 minutes, I think I'll cut it off there.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Following Carrie's comments is Sue Savage.
Good evening, Council. I'm Carrie Davis Medill, and I live at 5654 Nectar Avenue. I'm also wanting to share with you my concerns with the Citrus Point project. One is the scenic highway setback requirement. They must install that before the first house. As a matter of fact, I was reviewing my tax bill, and I'm being charged for taxes to maintain that, and it's not even installed. And I've been paying it for the last 9 years. And on the budget that I reviewed today that I already spoke about, between my neighbors and I, we're paying about $30,000 a year for that scenic highway maintenance and lights that we don't have. So I just want you to be aware of that, but I have concerns with the traffic. They haven't done a traffic survey, and things have considerably changed since that track initially was developed. I also have concerns with the Mediterranean and Spanish-style homes, not to mention the fact that when we addressed the Planning Commission, they were dismissive. To be quite frank, one of the planning commissioners was very dismissive about my concerns with a one-story community. And her response was, maybe you shouldn't have bought next to a vacant lot. Well, when I bought my house 15 years ago, I was in phase 3. I didn't know the housing market was going to crash in 2007, 2008, and that land would never be developed. It took everything I had to keep my house through that. I was a victim of one of the Hemet budget crises several years back and lost my job. But I didn't lose my house. And I continue to live in that neighborhood because it's one of the nicest in Hemet. And for the Planning Commission to dismiss our concerns, and I mean, not all of them, but to act like, you know, we're asking for things that are unreasonable, we're not. Traffic surveys, I understand the city's in big trouble, I get it. But I don't think generating tax revenue on my dime and my investment is fair. And my community's nice for a reason, and I intend to keep it that way. And I'll keep coming here with my neighbors, and I'll keep telling you my concerns, and we'll just keep going until we get a viable project. I want it developed. That's to my investment, but not at any expense. I appreciate your time in listening, and I hope my other neighbors will also implore you to at least investigate what's being proposed. Thank you.
Kara?
After Sue Savage is Pat Gregory.
Council members, Hemet needs tax revenue. Listen to these guys. Property tax is the best kind because it can't go anywhere. 80 new houses to increase Hemet property taxes have been proposed. Why aren't 80 new houses being built? Why aren't we halfway finished building to get the tax revenue into Hemet? Where's our community planner? Does Hemet need one? The 80 new houses seem to be held up for a couple of reasons. John Petty owns the scenic highway setback land. D.R. Horton claims the city should talk with John Petty so D.R. Horton can own it. Why isn't it happening? Hemet needs the tax revenue, the money. Listen. Does the city need to get someone like a community planner who brings people like Horton and Petty together to resolve the issues? On February the 5th, you guys waived the undergrounding of the utilities on the project. During the meeting, D.R. Horton said they are going to underground the utility lines. D.R. Horton said somehow the undergrounding got omitted from the staff report. I don't know how that happens, but that's what they said. Undergrounding of communication lines needs to be in writing and a condition of the development. Planning staff said D.R. Horton would not do the scenic highway setback even if Horton owned the land. Why? Scenic highway setback needs to be complete before D.R. Horton builds the first house. Setback needs to be in writing and a condition of development. As was said, we've been paying taxes on that as residents for a long time. And I'll bet you D.R. Horton paid taxes on that same issue. We are asking City Council to put someone in charge to negotiate a deal between D.R. Horton and John Petty. Get this moving. All of us want to see this project add money to Hemet's general fund. And we want the project done correctly. Thank you for your time. Sorry.
Thank you, Pat.
Following Pat Gregory is Stacy Terry.
Now, Pat.
Good evening. I'm Pat Gregory. First of all, I object to the 2-minute limit that's been arbitrarily imposed. It seems you really don't want to hear what the public has to say, but I'll try to be quick. The budget, as proposed, transfers $2.4 million from Measure U and transfers $2.6 million to the general fund, but there is no explanation for that transfer. The letter attached from the Oversight Committee refers to only $680,000. That transfer may be related to your request to borrow money from a DIF fund. Do the people in McSweeney Farms know what you're doing? I understand they're starting to build out there again. The information provided by this loan scheme is not consistent with the numbers you provided in the budget. It seems you want to borrow money from a fire fund and pay it back with general fund money. You are not clear on who pays it back. You're putting the city into debt and ignoring council's vote to pay for the equipment through Measure U. The only explanation that I can think of for such an idiotic proposal is that you want to mislead the public into thinking that you've solved the problem of the ongoing deficit. The Fire Facilities Fund doesn't change on the proposed budget, so it's difficult to determine if you really aren't borrowing money. You then have the audacity, and this is you, Mr. Lopez, to state that there will be no additional police hired, despite this council's promise and the citizens' reliance on that promise, such that we gave you 30 million tax dollars, which to date has resulted in a net of 3 or 4 new police officers. Yet you turn around and propose a salary increase for yourself and for your staff. That's shameful.
Pat, please direct your comments to council.
A further example of your lack of transparency is that you once again hide the city attorney's total expense. Why are you hiding the multi-million-dollar expense for this overpriced attorney? It no longer appears on the first page of the budget. I suggest Mr. Lopez goes back to his $200,000 office and comes back with a budget that is more in line with what council has voted for and what the citizens of Hemet have already paid for. Thank you.
Final comment is from Stacy Ferris.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Ferris, and I'm a fourth-generation resident of this valley. My husband Kelly and I live at 224 Orchard Avenue in Hemet and have lived at this address for 13 years. We love this valley and our community. When we purchased our home, we understood that when the lots directly behind our property were developed, it would be a single-story housing project that would preserve and enhance the existing neighborhood. The reason I am here tonight and addressing the City Council is regarding the Citrus Point development that is proposed in our neighborhood. This project is directly behind our home and the homes of our neighbors. I would like to make you aware of the concerns that we have for this proposed project. This project is not consistent with our Orchard neighborhood, as we live in a single-story development that adjoins the site and provides access to the project. In this project of 80 residential homes, it includes 2-story homes along with single-story homes. The architecture and materials are not consistent with our existing neighborhood. The way the lots are developed, there will be two two-story homes and one single-story directly behind our property. These homes will be able to view into our backyard and our adjoining neighbors' backyards to the grade difference that is at 6 feet high elevation. This is a concern with drainage and flooding issues coming from these lots as we have a pool in our backyard. Another concern is the adjoining fencing. The proposal in this project is to construct vinyl fencing next to our wood fencing on the property line, or we can remove our wood fence at our expense when they construct the vinyl fencing. I am sure we would not be able to maintain our wood fence if a vinyl fence was constructed right next to it. Considering these concerns, we attended the Planning Commission meeting on June 16th, where the Citrus Point project was on the agenda. Many concerned neighbors attended this meeting and spoke about the issues of this project. After consideration, the developer, D.R. Horton, stated they would replace the two-story homes along the north side of the development with single-story homes, along with removing the wood fencing at their expense and replace with vinyl fencing. A waiver for liability would have to be signed for any damage that is done to our property during the demolition of our fence. These changes still do not take into consideration the fact that this development should only be for single-story homes that are consistent with the existing neighborhood or the grade difference in higher elevation, drainage, and flooding concerns. We have not seen any of these changes in writing, and before we sign any documentation, we think it is imperative that an engineering firm come to our home and the homes of our neighbors to evaluate these concerns. We are not opposed to development, but encourage smart development in the city of Hemet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stacey.
That was the last comment. I would like to note for the record, we also received a petition from SEIU 721 to fund frontline services. There are 48 signatures on the petition, and will be distributed to council.
Okay.
And that's the rest of the comments.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 12, the receive and file. I have a motion to receive and file these items.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to receive and file. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Councilmember Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that passes unanimously. Moving on to item 13, consent calendar. These are items that will be acted upon simultaneously unless requested by an individual council member for separate consideration. Any council members want to pull an item for separate consideration? 13I.
13I.
There you go. Unanimous.
Anything other than 13I? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve items 13 A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, L, M, and N.
That motion.
I have a motion to approve those items. And a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Percival?
Yes.
Councilmember Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Krupa?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. 13I.
I need to recuse from that vote because it's near my house.
Can you stay here or do you have to leave?
Question for the city manager. I mean, for the city.
Did you turn?
You can fade out the audience, but you're supposed to step down from that there.
Okay.
Okay.
You pulled it, so you get to start.
There we go. Basically, I'm just looking for more public comment information going out on exactly why the city has to declare this as surplus property when we have owned, the city has owned the property for numerous years, have put some improvements in it with redevelopment funding, had a couple potential development agreements with potential developers that have gone nowhere.
And now, all of a sudden, we have to do a separate procedure as to legally declaring it as surplus land. And if the city attorney could comment on the wonderful play by the state of California, I'd appreciate that.
Sorry, the last time that I ripped it all apart. In essence, we have to go through this new process because the state legislature and the governor have decided that no local entity should have any surplus reserve of property and that they should be converted to high-density affordable housing projects. And so at the beginning of this year, a new law went into effect that essentially said that cities could no longer hold property for the purpose of future commercial, industrial, or similar type of development, and that property had to be declared surplus, and that if a city wanted to sell it, it had to go through a process where you come to the city council and you declare the property to be surplus, and then you have to send out notices to local school districts, housing developers, and other entities that are on the State Department of Housing and Community Development's list of affordable housing developers. Once you've gone through that notice process, if you haven't received an offer from one of those entities to purchase the property, then you can go ahead and sell it for commercial or industrial development, as is proposed for at least a piece of it here. If we receive a viable offer from one of those entities, now we have to enter into a good faith negotiation period with them to see if it can be developed for park purposes, school purposes, or, as the state would like, high-density affordable housing purposes. So this is the first step that we have to go through now, even to enter into negotiations with a developer. Our days of being able to meet with developers or hire a broker or solicit offers is done. We cannot do that anymore. And in fact, you'll see a companion item to this coming up in subsequent weeks where we've categorized all of the city's inventory of property as either in current public use, held for future public use, and that's a very narrow band now, or exempt from surplus, and that's like remnant property, it's also a small list, or it's surplus. And then once you hold it as surplus, you can dispose of it, but you can only dispose of it now through this notice and negotiation process. If we don't, Housing and Community Development Department has been given oversight to review and approve transactions, and if they've found that we've violated the process, to fine the city up to 50% of the purchase price of the property. So my apologies for yet another bureaucratic process. Blame this one on your governor. If you have any additional questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Have a follow-up on that. Considering the location of this property in the close proximity to the airport, and that there are conditions of approval that come from the Airport Land Use Commission as to what can be or cannot be built on that property, if an entity came in and wanted to develop high-density, low-income housing, they would be prohibited from doing that by the Airport Land Use Commission, correct? Or do they hold sway over that?
We'd have to look at the specific project. My recollection is similar to yours, that it would be difficult because of the particular overlay zone to have residences, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be used for an educational purpose or a park purpose, and which still makes us go through this process. But your thinking is right on the overlay.
Okay, thank you. That's all. More for you. First of all, I absolutely disagree, and I could care less what the governor says about our property. That is a prime big box location. So has nobody filed any suit against them for infringing on our rights? Because those are not just, that's not our money, that is our people's property. And so, I know you kind of explained a little bit about that, but is there no litigation against this? This is a joke.
No, this law has not been challenged. The city itself has not initiated this suit against the state with regard to the application of this. That would likely take us going through the process and having a development that was rejected by HCED. Now, I hope we don't ever get to that point. I think we will get through the process and end up doing exactly what we want to do. It's unfortunately just taking a new process path. And I agree, it's a prime commercial property. I'm not thrilled with the law myself.
So here's a creative idea for us. If we don't deem it tonight as excess property, but expand our city yard and store items on that property, then is that city property that they used?
Yes, if we could bring this item back and present the council with a conceptual plan for the development of an expanded yard, and you could hold it for that use. You couldn't then sell it for commercial or industrial property simply because it's held for or used as public property, though. We'd still have to go back through this process.
So then at some point, so if we change our mind, then we would still have to do this, no matter what.
Yes. Yes, and the point being that the state wants notice to go out to educational, park, and affordable housing developers that this property could be available for that use.
Confident that we can still use it for, I mean...
The saving grace for us is that the entity has to buy it from the city for either the fair market value or for the same price that the developer would purchase it for. The city has, with regard to this property, always said that it's going to sell it for fair market value. The park, educational, and affordable housing transactions that I'm familiar with, and that's a significant amount over my 30 years, none of them can afford to pay a fair market value for the property. So I just can't see as a practical matter how the local school district or any park and rec district or an affordable housing developer could afford to pay fair market value for it.
Okay, so one more question is, if we do not decide to sell it, but we choose to do a land lease with someone,
Same process. Same process. If we do a long-term lease or commercial lease, we'd still have to go through this process.
Well, if I was disgusted before, I'm even more disgusted now after you answered some of my questions. And Carl, you brought up some really good points. I'm flabbergasted that they would hogtie us into things that they want instead of what the city needs. And there are just no words and being in public.
There are no public words.
No public words to use right now. But I wish there was, I hope there's a creative way, and Carly's brought up a few of them, but as it turns out, we still have to go through this process, so it's disgusting.
I have a question for my colleague Linda. Are you aware of any lobbying that the League of California Cities is undertaking with regard to this legislation?
the league lobbied against this before it was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor. And it all had to do with the fact, in my opinion, and I think the reason it all came out was because of the, quote, lack of high-density affordable housing for low-income people.
That was their idea of solving that.
Except that they took the broad brush, as usual, and painted everybody with the same thing, and you have a highly developable commercial piece of property that is in close proximity to an airport in one of the danger areas of takeoffs and landings for that airport, that housing can't go in, or shouldn't go in. And, you know, they said, I don't know if this was one of Senator Wiener's great ideas that I think it was. He's on my list. But yeah, the league lobbied against it, and
that was my recollection, and you haven't heard of anything
nothing going
pending where
forward.
somebody's...
I can't imagine well, this is my personal opinion, as the economy starts up again and building starts going, commercial development starts going, that larger cities aren't going to have some issues with this just as we are, and a lot of times they have a bigger pocketbook to challenge this. But it really is, it is such one more very, very unfair piece of legislation that has come down from Sacramento that just really messes over local communities and takes away our control on what we really want to do with our property, or what with the city's property. But, you know, this is the first step. We can dissuade. Should I say this in public?
we can encourage people to
We can encourage
vote.
people not to vote for affordable
wisely.
housing, and we'll go back and hope that we can get commercial development on this, because it is a commercial product.
Choose wisely in November.
There you go. Yep, exactly.
Any other questions, comments? It is incredibly exasperating, and I share my colleagues' frustration with this. It's just, there are no words.
That's it. So to get
Other
the ball
than
rolling on
poor
this,
letter.
I'll make a motion to approve item 13I.
Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Yeah, it's not working either.
Are you seconding?
Yeah.
Okay.
Disgustingly, yes.
Okay. Have a motion and a second to approve item 13I. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Meyer,
No.
Councilmember Wright, Mayor Pro Tem Krupa,
Yes.
Mayor Brown.
Reluctantly, yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes 3-1. Okay. And Councilmember Percival can rejoin us. That takes us to item 14, which is a public hearing. City Council's procedures for public hearings will be as follows. Staff will provide a report and clarification of items presented. Public hearing will be open for comments for those in favor of or in opposition to the item, followed by rebuttal to any comments made. Public hearing will be closed, and the city manager may respond to questions raised by the public. Public will not have an opportunity at that time to respond. Discussion will be brought back to the City Council for direction or action. So, City Manager, do we have a report on this item?